It's hard to believe, but across the world, there are people who spend their lives beneath the ground, not in basements or bunkers, but in vast networks of tunnels and rooms carved out of solid rock. From the stone cities of Cappadocia to the cave homes of Ethiopia, generations have lived where sunlight never reaches. Some hide in silence, their homes blending into the earth. Others raise families, store food, and build entire communities under the soil. In these dark passages, life moves differently. The walls keep out enemies, the earth keeps out the heat, and survival takes on a new meaning. In a world chasing the sky, their stories remind us that sometimes the safest place to live is where no one thinks to look. Matera, Tunisia. In the arid hills of southern Tunisia, Berber families continue living in troglodyte homes that represent one of humanity's most elegant solutions to extreme climate challenges, where circular pits dug into hillsides create natural courtyard systems, with radiating cave rooms that maintain comfortable temperatures year-round while preserving traditional family structures and cultural practices that connect modern residents to thousands of years of desert wisdom. The Matera pit houses demonstrate architectural principles that contemporary sustainable design movements are only beginning to rediscover, where underground construction provides natural climate control that eliminates need for external energy inputs while creating private family spaces that maintain social structures essential for traditional Berber culture. Each family compound functions as a complete living system where different cave rooms serve specialized purposes while the central courtyard provides space for daily activities, food preparation, and social interaction. The home's construction requires sophisticated understanding of soil mechanics, drainage, and structural engineering that enables families to excavate stable living spaces without compromising structural integrity or creating safety hazards. Traditional builders possess knowledge passed down through generations about soil types, excavation techniques, and maintenance practices that keep these underground homes habitable for decades, while requiring minimal external materials or professional assistance. The cultural significance of Matera extends far beyond its architectural innovations, as the underground homes preserve Berber social traditions that might otherwise be lost to modernization pressures, while providing economic opportunities through tourism that enables families to maintain traditional lifestyles without economic hardship. The home's famous appearance in Star Wars films brought global attention that has created sustainable income sources while preserving cultural authenticity. The ecological impact of troglodyte construction demonstrates how traditional building techniques can provide environmental solutions that modern architecture struggles to match through technological approaches. As underground homes require no external heating or cooling, while creating minimal environmental disruption compared to surface construction that requires extensive site preparation and ongoing maintenance. Derinkuyu, Turkey. In 1963, a Turkish man renovating his home in Cappadocia broke through a basement wall and discovered what would become one of archaeology's most astonishing finds: an 18-level underground city capable of sheltering 20,000 people, complete with churches, wine cellars, stables, and a ventilation system so sophisticated that fresh air reached every level despite depths extending 280 feet into volcanic rock. Derinkuyu represents human engineering on a scale that challenges everything we think we know about ancient capabilities. This wasn't a simple cave dwelling or temporary hiding place. It was a fully functioning underground metropolis where entire communities could live for months or even years without ever seeing sunlight. The city's design demonstrates planning and execution that rivals modern urban development, with carefully calculated room sizes, strategic placement of common areas, and defensive features that could protect inhabitants from siege warfare while maintaining the infrastructure necessary for civilized life. The city's church spaces reveal the profound role faith played in sustaining underground communities, where religious services provided psychological anchor points in an environment that could easily have led to despair or madness. These carved churches feature intricate details that demonstrate how even in the most challenging circumstances, humans insisted on creating beauty and meaning rather than merely surviving. The acoustic design of these sacred spaces amplifies voices and music in ways that transform simple prayers into transcendent experiences that connected communities to something larger than their immediate circumstances. The ventilation system represents perhaps the most remarkable achievement of Derinkuyu's builders, as over 50 air shafts provide fresh air circulation throughout all 18 levels, while remaining hidden from surface observation. This engineering feat required mathematical calculations and understanding of air dynamics that wouldn't be formally codified until modern times. Yet ancient builders achieved perfect climate control through intuitive understanding of natural air movement and pressure differentials that kept the deepest chambers habitable, even when occupied by thousands of people. Archaeological evidence suggests Derinkuyu was used continuously for over 1,000 years, with different civilizations expanding and adapting the complex to meet their specific needs while maintaining the essential infrastructure that made underground life possible. The city became a crucible where survival techniques were refined across generations, where communities developed social structures that could function in extreme isolation, and where human adaptability reached extraordinary heights through necessity and ingenuity. Coober Pedy, Australia. In the scorching heart of the South Australian desert, where summer temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and the landscape resembles the surface of Mars more than any earthly environment, the residents of Coober Pedy have chosen to live like hobbits, not out of whimsy, but out of pure survival necessity in one of the planet's most inhospitable climates. Coober Pedy exists because of opals, those fire-bright gems that formed in this ancient seabed millions of years ago. But it endures because its residents discovered that the abandoned mine shafts provided perfect living spaces where temperatures remain a comfortable 75 degrees year-round, regardless of the hellish conditions above ground. What began as temporary shelters for opal miners has evolved into a permanent underground town where over 2,500 people have carved entire lives from the sandstone that once yielded precious stones. The dugouts, as locals call their homes, represent architecture at its most pragmatic and ingenious, where every room serves multiple purposes and space is carved according to need rather than predetermined blueprints. Families expand their homes simply by digging new rooms, while businesses create retail spaces by hollowing out additional chambers, making Coober Pedy perhaps the only town on Earth where home improvement literally means more excavation. The town's underground churches represent extraordinary achievements in subterranean architecture, where Serbian Orthodox and Catholic congregations have created sacred spaces that rival surface cathedrals through careful attention to acoustics, lighting, and artistic detail that transforms carved stone into vessels for transcendent religious experience. These churches demonstrate how communities maintain spiritual life, even when living conditions seem to eliminate every conventional form of beauty and inspiration. The social life of Coober Pedy challenges every assumption about what human community requires to flourish. As residents gather in underground pubs, clubs, and community centers that create vibrant social networks despite the absence of conventional gathering spaces like parks, street corners, or public squares. The town's collective identity has formed around shared challenges and mutual dependence that creates bonds stronger than those found in many surface communities, where geographic mobility and economic opportunity can weaken social connections. Odessa Catacombs, Ukraine. Beneath the Ukrainian port city of Odessa lies a labyrinth so vast and complex that it defies human comprehension. 2,500 kilometers of interconnected tunnels, chambers, and passages that form the largest underground network in the world. A subterranean maze where partisan fighters once hid from Nazi occupation, and where modern residents now seek shelter from contemporary warfare. These catacombs began as limestone quarries in the 19th century, where the stone that built Odessa's beautiful architecture was extracted through systematic mining that gradually created an underground city larger than the surface settlement above. But history transformed these industrial spaces into something far more significant: a refuge system that has provided sanctuary during multiple conflicts, while demonstrating the enduring human need for hidden spaces, where survival becomes possible when surface life becomes impossible. During World War II, these tunnels sheltered thousands of Soviet partisans, who used the maze-like passages to coordinate resistance operations against German occupation forces, creating an underground society with its own command structures, supply networks, and communication systems that enabled effective military operations while remaining invisible to surface authorities. The catacombs became a hidden state within a state, where parallel governance systems developed to manage resources, resolve conflicts, and maintain morale among communities living under extreme stress. The current conflict in Ukraine has renewed the catacombs' role as shelter, where residents flee underground during air raids and artillery bombardments, finding in these ancient passages the same protection that previous generations sought during earlier wars. The continuity of function across different historical periods demonstrates how certain geographic features transcend politics and ideology to provide fundamental human needs that remain constant regardless of the specific nature of external threats. Modern efforts to map and upgrade the catacombs for contemporary use reveal the challenge of adapting historical spaces to modern safety standards, while preserving their essential character as refugee systems that function independently of surface infrastructure. Engineers work to install proper ventilation, lighting, and communication systems that can support large populations during extended emergencies, while maintaining the network's ability to remain hidden from potential enemies who might seek to eliminate these sanctuary spaces. Naours, France. Hidden beneath the rolling farmland of the Somme region lies one of history's most remarkable survival stories, an underground city that sheltered over 3,000 people during multiple wars while developing into a self-sustaining community with its own governance, economy, and cultural life that endured for centuries beneath the surface of rural France. The Naours caves began as chalk quarries during medieval times, where stone extraction created chambers that were gradually expanded and connected into a comprehensive underground network that provided perfect conditions for long-term habitation. The chalk's natural properties offered excellent insulation and structural stability, while the location's secrecy allowed communities to disappear from historical records during periods when survival required invisibility. During the 30 Years' War, entire villages would evacuate to Naours when armies approached, bringing livestock, household goods, and even furniture into the underground chambers where they could maintain normal family and community life until danger passed. The cave's design accommodated this cyclical use through flexible spaces that could serve as sleeping areas, workshops, storage facilities, or gathering places depending on immediate needs and population density. The underground community developed sophisticated social structures that enabled hundreds of families to coexist peacefully in confined spaces during extended periods of external threat, creating governance systems that balanced individual needs with collective welfare while maintaining the cooperation essential for survival in challenging circumstances. These social innovations demonstrate how human communities adapt their organizational structures to unusual environmental conditions while preserving essential cultural values and practices. Archaeological evidence reveals that Naours functioned as more than temporary shelter, as residents created workshops where they continued their trades, educational spaces where children received instruction, and recreational areas where community celebrations and religious observances maintained morale during difficult periods. The caves became a parallel society that preserved French rural culture during times when surface communities faced destruction or displacement. Setenil de las Bodegas, Spain. In the mountains of Andalusia, the village of Setenil de las Bodegas represents one of the most striking examples of humans living in harmony with natural geological formations, where homes are built not around rock formations, but directly beneath massive limestone overhangs that provide natural roofing, walls, and climate control that has sheltered families for over 1,000 years. The village's name, which translates roughly to 7 times no, refers to the repeated failed attempts by Christian forces to conquer this Moorish stronghold during the Reconquista, as the natural fortifications provided by the overhanging cliffs made conventional siege warfare nearly impossible. The underground aspects of the settlement enabled defenders to move unseen while maintaining supply lines and communication networks that surface attackers couldn't locate or disrupt. The homes carved into these cliff faces demonstrate architecture at its most elegant and efficient, where natural stone provides structural support, while human modifications create comfortable living spaces that require minimal external materials or energy inputs. The rock's thermal mass naturally regulates indoor temperatures, while the overhangs protect against rain and wind, creating microclimate conditions that remain comfortable throughout seasonal changes. Modern residents continue living in these cliff dwellings, not out of necessity but by choice, as the homes offer environmental advantages that contemporary architecture struggles to match through artificial means. The natural cooling and heating provided by thermal mass eliminates need for air conditioning or heating systems, while the acoustic properties of stone create quiet interior spaces that provide refuge from modern noise pollution. The village's commercial spaces, including restaurants and shops built into the cliff faces, create unique environments where customers dine literally inside the mountain while enjoying views across the valley, demonstrating how traditional building techniques can create experiences that modern architecture cannot replicate through conventional materials and methods. Kaymakli, Turkey. Connected to Derinkuyu through kilometers of underground tunnels, Kaymakli represents the other half of Cappadocia's greatest underground achievement, a multi-level city that functioned as both independent settlement and integrated component of a broader subterranean network that could shelter tens of thousands of people across multiple interconnected sites. The connection between Kaymakli and Derinkuyu demonstrates ancient urban planning on a scale that rivals modern metropolitan systems, where multiple cities were designed to function as integrated units with shared resources, mutual defense capabilities, and coordinated governance structures that enabled large populations to survive underground for extended periods. This network approach prevented any single site from becoming overwhelmed, while providing backup options when specific locations faced particular threats. Kaymakli's 8 levels descend deep into volcanic rock through carefully engineered passages that control access while maintaining ventilation and communication between different areas of the complex. The city's design includes specialized spaces for food production, crafts, religious services, and social gathering that demonstrate how underground communities maintained all aspects of civilized life rather than merely surviving in hidden bunkers. The city's defensive features include massive stone doors that could seal passages against intruders, while hidden openings allowed residents to monitor surface activity and coordinate responses to external threats. These security measures were integrated into daily life patterns so seamlessly that residents could transition from peaceful domestic routines to coordinated defense operations without abandoning their underground homes. Archaeological investigation reveals that Kaymakli remained continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years, with successive generations adding new levels, improving existing facilities, and adapting the complex to changing needs, while maintaining the essential infrastructure that made underground urban life possible across multiple historical periods and cultural transitions. Subtropolis, USA. Beneath the rolling hills of Kansas City lies what may be the world's largest underground business complex, Subtropolis, a massive facility carved from a former limestone mine that now houses over 1,600 employees working in climate-controlled caverns that provide storage and office space for companies seeking secure, energy-efficient alternatives to conventional above-ground facilities. Subtropolis represents the commercial future of underground development, where the natural advantages of subterranean spaces, constant temperatures, enhanced security, protection from severe weather, create ideal conditions for businesses that require large storage areas, sensitive document protection, or manufacturing processes that benefit from stable, environmental conditions. The complex demonstrates how underground spaces can provide practical solutions to contemporary business needs while offering significant cost savings compared to surface alternatives. The facility's scale defies easy comprehension, as over 55 million square feet of underground space provides room for everything from e-commerce fulfillment centers to government archives, with specialized areas designed for food storage, automotive parts distribution, and data processing that takes advantage of the natural cooling provided by surrounding stone. The limestone's thermal properties eliminate need for conventional heating and cooling systems, while providing fire protection that exceeds most surface buildings. Working in Subtropolis creates unique psychological experiences for employees who spend entire shifts in artificial environments where time loses conventional meaning and spatial relationships differ dramatically from surface workplaces. The facility's designers have addressed these challenges through careful attention to lighting, air circulation, and recreational spaces that help maintain worker satisfaction while maximizing the operational advantages of underground location. The complex's success has inspired similar developments across the United States, where abandoned mines are being converted into secure storage facilities, data centers, and specialized manufacturing operations that demonstrate how underground infrastructure can provide competitive advantages in increasingly complex global markets where security, efficiency, and environmental sustainability create new priorities for business location decisions. Wieliczka Salt Mine, Poland. For over 7 centuries, the Wieliczka salt mine has functioned as far more than an industrial operation. It has evolved into an underground cathedral where miners transformed utilitarian extraction spaces into artistic masterpieces that rival any surface religious architecture, while developing healing practices that continue attracting visitors from around the world. Seeking therapeutic benefits from the mine's unique underground environment. The mine's chapels represent extraordinary achievements in subterranean art, where generations of miners carved intricate religious scenes directly from salt deposits, creating sacred spaces that glow with ethereal light when illuminated, while demonstrating devotional dedication that transform dangerous working conditions into opportunities for spiritual expression. The Chapel of St. Kinga features altarpieces, statues, and decorative elements entirely carved from salt by miners working during their off hours to create beauty in the depths of the earth. The mine's therapeutic properties have been recognized for centuries, as the underground environment provides natural treatment for respiratory conditions through clean air that is free from surface pollutants, while the specific humidity and mineral content create healing conditions that modern medicine is only beginning to understand scientifically. The mine's sanatorium facilities treat thousands of patients annually with respiratory ailments that improve dramatically through extended stays in the underground environment. The mine's educational value extends beyond its historical significance, as guided tours reveal industrial techniques that enabled continuous salt extraction while maintaining safety standards that protected workers and preserved the structural integrity of chambers and passages. The operation demonstrates how pre-industrial communities developed sophisticated engineering solutions that enabled large-scale resource extraction without modern machinery or safety equipment. The mine's cultural impact on Polish identity cannot be overstated, as Wieliczka became a symbol of national ingenuity and artistic achievement that transcended simple commercial value to represent the Polish people's ability to create beauty and meaning under the most challenging circumstances, while maintaining productive economic activity that supported entire regions for centuries. Montreal, Canada. Montreal's underground city, known locally as Réseau, represents one of the world's most successful examples of urban underground development, where 32 kilometers of interconnected passages link shopping centers, office buildings, hotels, universities, and metro stations in a climate-controlled environment that enables 500,000 people daily to navigate the city center without ever experiencing Canada's harsh winter weather. Réseau demonstrates how underground infrastructure can enhance urban life quality while providing practical solutions to climate challenges that affect northern cities during extended winter months. The system's design integrates commercial, residential, educational, and transportation functions in ways that create vibrant underground neighborhoods where people can work, shop, eat, and socialize without being limited by surface weather conditions. The underground city's economic impact extends far beyond simple convenience, as Réseau enables Montreal to maintain active commercial and cultural life. throughout shy winter months, when surface activities would otherwise be severely limited by cold temperatures and snow cover. Businesses benefit from consistent foot traffic, while residents enjoy access to services and amenities that remain available, regardless of seasonal conditions. The system's architectural design creates underground environments that avoid the claustrophobic feeling often associated with subterranean spaces through careful attention to lighting, ceiling heights, and spatial relationships that maintain comfortable psychological conditions for extended periods of underground activity. The design principles developed for Riso have influenced underground development projects in other cold climate cities, seeking similar solutions to winter accessibility challenges. The social implications of Riso's success demonstrate how underground spaces can enhance community life rather than isolating residents from normal urban interactions. As the system provides gathering places, entertainment venues, and cultural facilities that bring people together in ways that surface infrastructure might not achieve. During months when outdoor activities become impractical or dangerous. Lalibela, Ethiopia. In the highlands of northern Ethiopia, the medieval town of Lalibela houses one of Christianity's most remarkable architectural achievements. 11 churches carved entirely from solid rock and connected by narrow underground tunnels that enabled worshippers to move between religious sites while remaining hidden from potential invaders who might seek to destroy these sacred spaces. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela represent a unique form of underground religious architecture where entire buildings were carved downward into bedrock rather than constructed upward from foundations, creating sacred spaces that appear to grow from the earth itself, while providing natural camouflage that protected Christian communities during periods of political instability and religious persecution. The Church of St. George exemplifies the extraordinary technical and artistic achievement represented by Lalibela's builders, as this perfectly proportioned Greek cross was carved from a single piece of volcanic rock through work that required years of careful planning and execution by craftsmen who possessed mathematical knowledge and artistic vision that rivaled any contemporary architectural achievement in medieval Europe or the Middle East. The underground tunnel system connecting the churches creates a hidden pilgrimage route where worshippers can move between different religious sites while following spiritual journeys that combine physical movement with contemplative practices, transforming simple transportation into religious experience that deepens faith through symbolic passage between different sacred spaces. The church's continued use as active religious sites demonstrates how underground architecture can preserve cultural and spiritual traditions across centuries of political change. As Lalibela's Christian community has maintained continuous worship practices despite various invasions, colonization attempts, and political upheavals that might have destroyed surface religious buildings or disrupted normal community life. Mohenjo Daro, Pakistan. Buried beneath centuries of Indus River silt lies one of humanity's earliest urban achievements, Mohenjo Daro, a sophisticated city of the Indus Valley civilization that featured advanced drainage systems, multi-story buildings, and partially underground structures that demonstrate urban planning capabilities that wouldn't be matched again for thousands of years after the civilization's mysterious disappearance. The city's underground drainage system represents perhaps the most advanced sanitation engineering achieved by any ancient civilization, where sophisticated sewerage networks carried waste away from residential areas through carefully designed channels that maintained public health standards exceeding those found in most medieval European cities thousands of years later. The system's design required mathematical calculations and engineering knowledge that demonstrates the Indus Valley people's remarkable technical capabilities. Archaeological excavations reveal that many of Mohenjo Daro's buildings incorporated partially underground spaces that provided climate control and storage capabilities, while maintaining the structural integrity necessary for multi-story construction, creating urban architecture that balanced practical needs with aesthetic considerations that made the city both functional and beautiful. The city's sudden abandonment around 1900 BCE creates one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, as no evidence suggests invasion, natural disaster, or gradual decline that might explain why such an advanced civilization simply disappeared, leaving behind only buried ruins that weren't rediscovered until modern archaeological investigations began revealing the Indus Valley's remarkable achievements. The urban planning principles evident at Mohenjo Daro demonstrate sophisticated understanding of population density, resource management, and public health that enabled large urban populations to live together peacefully while maintaining the infrastructure necessary for complex economic and social systems that supported specialized crafts, long-distance trade, and cultural development. Nushabad, Iran. 3 levels beneath the desert town of Nushabad lies a masterpiece of defensive architecture, an underground city from the Sasanian era that provided refuge for entire communities, fleeing invasions while maintaining sophisticated air circulation and water management systems that enabled extended habitation during times when surface life became impossible. Nushabad's 3-level design demonstrates advanced military engineering, where different underground levels served specialized defensive purposes, with the uppermost level providing quick access and emergency shelter, while deeper levels offered long-term habitation capabilities and secure storage for supplies necessary to sustain communities during extended sieges or occupation periods. The city's ventilation system represents remarkable technical achievement, where carefully positioned air shafts provide fresh air circulation throughout all 3 levels, while remaining hidden from surface observation, creating climate control that maintains comfortable living conditions regardless of external weather or the number of people sheltering underground. The engineering required to achieve such air circulation demonstrates sophisticated understanding of atmospheric pressure and air movement that rivals modern HVAC systems. The water management system enabled underground communities to maintain access to clean drinking water, even when surface supplies were compromised by enemy action, as hidden wells and storage reservoirs provided sustainable water sources that could support hundreds of people for months, while remaining undetectable to surface forces that might attempt to eliminate water access as a siege tactic. The city's preservation across 15 centuries demonstrates the effectiveness of its design and construction techniques, as the underground complex has remained structurally sound despite earthquakes, floods, and surface development that has continuously changed the landscape above, while the buried city maintains its essential functionality as emergency shelter for contemporary residents. Tunnels of Tabor, Czech Republic. Beneath the Czech town of Tabor lies a 15th century underground network that exemplifies medieval urban defense, where Hussite communities created interconnected tunnels that enabled residents to move safely between buildings while providing secure storage for valuables and supplies during periods when religious conflicts made surface life dangerous for Protestant communities. The tunnel system demonstrates how religious minorities developed architectural solutions that enabled them to maintain community life while protecting themselves from persecution, as underground passages connected homes, businesses, and religious meeting spaces in ways that allowed normal social and economic activities to continue, even when surface movement became risky or impossible due to political or military threats. The tunnel's construction required sophisticated engineering that balanced structural integrity with concealment needs, as passages needed to be large enough for practical use while remaining hidden from authorities who might seek to eliminate Protestant communities or confiscate property and possessions that threatened Catholic religious authority in the region. The network's layout reveals careful planning that integrated defensive considerations with daily life needs. As tunnels connected essential facilities like food storage areas, workshops, and meeting spaces while providing multiple escape routes that enabled communities to evacuate quickly if underground spaces were discovered and attacked by hostile forces. The system's survival demonstrates the effectiveness of its concealment methods and construction techniques, as the tunnels remained hidden for centuries after the religious conflicts ended, while maintaining structural integrity that enables contemporary visitors to explore and appreciate the ingenuity of medieval communities facing existential threats to their religious and cultural identity. Matiate, Turkey. Discovered in 2020, Matiate represents archaeology's most recent underground revelation. A newly uncovered city believed to have sheltered 70,000 people across 2,000 years of continuous habitation, revealing that Cappadocia's subterranean world was even more extensive and sophisticated than previously understood, while demonstrating that major archaeological discoveries continue waiting beneath our feet. Initial excavations suggest Matiate may be the largest underground city ever discovered, with preliminary surveys indicating a complex that rivals Derinkuyu and Kaymakli in sophistication, while exceeding both in scale and population capacity, creating new understanding of ancient Anatolia's underground civilization and the technological capabilities of civilizations that chose to build downward rather than upward. The city's strategic location and defensive features indicate it served as a crucial refuge during multiple historical periods when surface communities faced invasion, persecution, or political upheaval, demonstrating how certain geographic locations become repeatedly valuable as sanctuary spaces across different civilizations and conflicts that span millennia. Archaeological analysis reveals construction techniques and architectural features that suggest cultural connections between Matiate and other underground cities throughout Cappadocia, indicating that subterranean urban development represented a regional architectural tradition rather than isolated innovations by individual communities responding to specific local threats. The discovery's timing demonstrates how modern archaeological techniques continue revealing hidden aspects of human history, as ground-penetrating radar and other contemporary investigation methods enable archaeologists to locate and map underground structures that previous generations of researchers missed, despite working in the same geographic areas for decades. Ciudad Perdida, Colombia. Deep in the Colombian jungle, largely buried under centuries of vegetation growth, lies Ciudad Perdida, the lost city of the Tairona people, where an 8th century urban complex demonstrates sophisticated architectural achievement that was hidden from Spanish conquistadors and remained unknown to modern archaeology until the 1970s, when treasure hunters accidentally rediscovered this remarkable example of pre-Columbian urban planning. The city's terraced construction demonstrates advanced understanding of tropical engineering, where stone terraces carved into mountainside slopes created stable building platforms while managing water drainage in ways that prevented erosion and maintained structural integrity despite heavy rainfall and challenging topographic conditions that would have defeated less sophisticated construction techniques. Archaeological investigation reveals that much of Ciudad Perdida's urban infrastructure was deliberately buried by its inhabitants before Spanish arrival, creating a time capsule that preserved architectural details and cultural artifacts while enabling the city to disappear so completely that Spanish colonial records contain no mention of its existence, despite its location in heavily traveled territory. The city's rediscovery process demonstrates the continuing potential for major archaeological finds in regions where tropical vegetation and geographic isolation have protected historical sites from modern development, while creating conditions where systematic archaeological investigation can reveal previously unknown civilizations and cultural achievements. Naples, Italy. "40 meters beneath Naples's bustling streets lies a hidden city that spans over 1,000 years of continuous use. Ancient Greek quarries transformed into Roman aqueduct systems, later converted to medieval storage areas, then repurposed as World War II bomb shelters, and now operating as one of Europe's most fascinating underground tourist destinations that reveals layer upon layer of human adaptation and survival. The underground complex began as Greek limestone quarries, where ancient colonists extracted the building materials that constructed surface Naples, gradually creating vast underground chambers that provided perfect conditions for subsequent civilizations to adapt these spaces for completely different purposes, while maintaining the structural integrity that enabled continuous use across multiple historical periods. Roman engineers transformed the abandoned quarries into sophisticated aqueduct systems that supplied fresh water to the growing city above, creating underground infrastructure that demonstrated advanced hydraulic engineering while providing reliable water supplies that enabled Naples to become one of the Roman Empire's most prosperous urban centers. Chelm Chalk Tunnels, Poland. Beneath the Polish city of Chelm lies a 15-kilometer network of chalk tunnels that began as medieval mining operations and evolved into a comprehensive underground system that provided shelter during multiple wars, while demonstrating how industrial infrastructure can be repurposed to meet changing community needs across centuries of political and social transformation. The tunnels originated as chalk extraction operations that supplied building materials for regional construction, while creating underground spaces that medieval communities quickly recognized as valuable for storage, transportation, and defensive purposes, transforming simple mining tunnels into multi-purpose infrastructure that served economic, military, and social functions. During World War II, the tunnels provided crucial shelter for Polish civilians and resistance fighters who used the underground network to move safely while avoiding Nazi occupation forces, creating an invisible parallel city where normal community life could continue, despite surface oppression and the constant threat of arrest or execution. Matera, Italy. Carved into limestone cliffs in southern Italy, the Sassi of Matera represent one of humanity's longest continuously inhabited settlements. Cave homes that have sheltered families since Paleolithic times, but were considered shameful slums until the late 20th century, when cultural preservation movements transformed them into luxury accommodations and UNESCO World Heritage Sites that demonstrate how traditional architecture can provide contemporary solutions to sustainable living challenges. The cave dwellings demonstrate architectural principles that maximize natural advantages while minimizing environmental impact, where limestone's thermal properties provide natural climate control and structural support while requiring minimal external materials or energy inputs, creating living spaces that achieve comfort and durability through harmony with geological conditions rather than resistance to natural forces. The Sassi's social transformation from slums to luxury accommodations reveals how cultural perspectives on housing can change dramatically as sustainability concerns and heritage preservation create new appreciation for traditional building techniques that were previously dismissed as primitive or inadequate by modern development standards, focused primarily on conventional construction methods and materials. The architectural restoration projects that converted abandoned cave homes into contemporary residences demonstrate how traditional building techniques can be enhanced with modern amenities while preserving essential character and environmental advantages, creating hybrid solutions that combine historical authenticity with contemporary comfort and convenience. The economic impact of heritage tourism has enabled Matera to thrive while preserving its unique architectural character, demonstrating how cultural preservation can provide sustainable, economic development that benefits local communities while sharing historical knowledge and traditional technologies with global audiences seeking alternatives to conventional architectural approaches. Helsinki, Finland. From the surface, Helsinki appears as any other Nordic capital. Clean lines of modern architecture, pristine streets, and the gentle lapping of Baltic waves against granite shores. But beneath your feet lies a secret that challenges every assumption about urban planning and human adaptation. An entire shadow city carved from living bedrock, where neighborhoods, data centers, shopping districts, and recreational facilities exist in a subterranean realm that most visitors never suspect exists. This isn't science fiction or some distant utopian dream. This is Helsinki's underground master plan, a bold vision that has been quietly transforming the Finnish capital into the world's most advanced underground metropolis. What began as practical Cold War-era civil defense has evolved into something far more ambitious, a comprehensive reimagining of how cities can expand not outward but downward, creating sustainable urban environments that protect both human communities and the natural landscape above. The journey into Helsinki's underground begins at Tempeliaukio Church, the famous rock church, where visitors first glimpse the Finnish genius for working with rather than against their challenging geological conditions. But this iconic structure represents just the beginning of a subterranean network that now spans over 400 tunnels and underground spaces, creating a parallel city that functions seamlessly alongside the surface world, while offering solutions to problems that plague urban centers across the globe. Walking through the underground Kamppi shopping center, visitors experience something unprecedented in urban design. A commercial district that feels spacious naturally lit, and connected to the surface world despite being carved entirely from solid granite bedrock. The center's designers understood that underground spaces don't need to feel claustrophobic or artificial. Through careful attention to lighting, ventilation, and spatial flow, they've created environments that feel more comfortable and inviting than many surface-level commercial developments. The technical achievement of Helsinki's underground construction defies easy comprehension. Finnish engineers have perfected techniques for excavating massive spaces from some of the world's hardest granite, using controlled blasting methods that create underground chambers so precisely engineered that they require minimal structural support despite spanning areas large enough for concert halls and sports facilities. This isn't simply digging holes, it's sculptural architecture on a geological scale, where each space is carved to work with the natural stress patterns and mineral composition of the bedrock itself. Pilsen, Czech Republic. Beneath the cobblestone streets of Pilsen lies a secret that transforms everything you thought you knew about medieval urban planning and the profound cultural importance of beer in Central European civilization. This 14th century tunnel system wasn't built for defense or transportation. It was constructed as the world's most sophisticated beer storage and distribution network, a subterranean infrastructure so advanced that it remained in active use for over 600 years, while producing some of history's most celebrated beer. The story begins in 1295, when King Wenceslas II granted Pilsen the right to brew beer, unknowingly launching an underground construction project that would create one of Europe's most extensive medieval tunnel systems. What the burghers of Pilsen understood, centuries before modern refrigeration technology, was that beer storage required precise temperature control and protection from temperature variations that could spoil months of brewing work in a matter of days. Their solution was elegantly simple, yet incredibly ambitious. They would carve an entire underground city dedicated exclusively to the perfect aging and storage of beer. Descending into these tunnels today, visitors immediately understand why Pilsen became synonymous with beer excellence throughout the medieval world. The tunnels maintain a constant temperature between 4 to 6 degrees Celsius year-round, creating natural refrigeration that kept beer fresh and properly carbonated long before anyone understood the scientific principles behind these processes. The medieval brewers who designed this system were working purely from empirical observation and accumulated wisdom, yet they created storage conditions that rival modern temperature-controlled facilities. The tunnel network spans over 20 kilometers beneath Pilsen's historic center, connecting virtually every building in the medieval city center through a web of passages that allowed brewers to move beer barrels without ever exposing them to surface temperature variations or seasonal weather conditions that could affect fermentation and aging processes. This wasn't simply a storage facility. It was a complete underground infrastructure system that made Pilsen the center of European beer trade for centuries. Beijing, China. Beneath the bustling streets of Beijing, in a labyrinth that stretches for miles under the world's most populous capital, over 1 million people call the underground home. This isn't ancient history. This is right now, today, where the Rat tribe, as they're known locally, inhabits a Cold War relic that has become modern China's most hidden housing crisis. Built during the height of Sino-Soviet tensions in the 1960s and 70s, Dixiacheng was designed as a massive bomb shelter that could theoretically house Beijing's entire population in the event of nuclear war. Chairman Mao's vision was nothing if not ambitious: an underground city complete with schools, hospitals, factories, and theatres, all connected by tunnels that burrowed deep enough to survive atomic bombardment. But history took a different turn than anyone anticipated. Instead of sheltering citizens from nuclear devastation, these tunnels now house China's urban poor: migrant workers, students, and service employees who cannot afford Beijing's astronomical surface rents. In spaces originally designed for temporary wartime refuge, entire families have carved out permanent lives, transforming bomb shelters into bedrooms, fallout protection areas into kitchen spaces, and emergency corridors into neighborhood streets where children play and vendors sell food. The irony is profound and heartbreaking. These underground dwellers work in the gleaming towers above their heads, cleaning office buildings, serving food in restaurants, providing the invisible labor that keeps Beijing running, only to descend each night into a subterranean world where sunlight never reaches and fresh air comes through ventilation systems designed for wartime emergencies. Yet within this buried realm, human ingenuity flourishes. Residents have created communities with their own rhythms, their own social networks, their own forms of dignity that transcend the harsh realities of their living conditions. The Chinese government officially bans residential use of these spaces, but enforcement remains inconsistent, creating a grey zone where survival trumps legality and human necessity overrides bureaucratic regulations. For the rat tribe, the underground represents not just cheap housing, but something more complex: a space outside conventional society where different rules apply, where community bonds form through shared hardship, and where the earth itself provides sanctuary from an increasingly expensive and competitive world above. These underground worlds remind us that the most important stories are often written in darkness, hidden infrastructure that keeps our dreams flowing like underground rivers. They speak of patience, engineers perfecting cities, brewers aging perfection, craftsmen carving sanctuaries, water masters ensuring life. The depths are patient, the depths endure. The depths remember everything we think we've forgotten, waiting quietly for us to descend and listen to what the earth has been trying to tell us all along.